Hey guys, I am once again back for another little car interview. Today we are here with Danny and his Porsche 944. So why don't you tell us, how much did you pick this up for and where did you get it?
So I picked it up for $4,500. It's a 1984 Porsche 944, the naturally aspirated. You can tell because of the bumper.
So the turbo models have like a completely different bumper, or?
Yeah, actually the fenders, the nose piece, and the bumper are completely different on the turbo.
Oh, okay.
I think they go out slightly more, but the turbo bumper is just like smooth here. It looks completely different. Couldn't mistake it. And it has these lights. It doesn't have them. It doesn't have these or these.
So that's specific to the NA model?
Yeah, those are
okay.
NA specific. I think it's similar to the ones that come on the 924. Which is the car that came before this and what this was based off of.
Yeah, so this is like the wide-bodied version of the 924, correct?
Yeah, it was based off the 924. That was a car that they were developing for Volkswagen at the time, but I think Volkswagen went with a different car. I think it might have been the Scirocco that they chose over the 924. And so since Porsche had put so much development time into this car, they had decided to make it their own. And so after they had noticed a lot of people were racing them on like small tracks.
These guys were raced?
The 924s.
Okay, the 924s were raced?
They were wide-bodied often, so they were like, well, heck, why not just make it out like that out of the factory? So they made it slightly
So this is
wider.
like the factory wide-body version of a 924?
Sort of, yeah. It has an updated motor.
So is it? How much more power is it making over 924? Or how much is this making stock?
This is only making 150, but I believe the 924 made like closer to 120, something like that. Might be talking out my ass.
So it's a bit of a bump.
Yeah, a good bump in power.
This is the wide-bodied version of a 924, and the 924s were raced often. Was this guy ever raced?
Yeah, 944s were raced pretty often. I think they still are. There's quite a few GT body kits and some other body kits that they make for it.
Yeah.
And so it's actually pretty popular.
Do they keep this engine, or do they only race the turbos, or?
The turbos are raced. I mean, there's a lot of stock ones that are raced. They just update like sway bars and suspension. The suspension's kind of hard to upgrade on this, but there is some kits out there to make it stiffer in the rear and things like that. Yeah, they do race the NA 944s. The turbo ones, the turbo ones make quite a bit more power.
Do you have any plans to turbo this engine in the future, or like swap a full turbo setup into it?
Okay, so you could turbo it, but it's kind of expensive, and at that point, like, why wouldn't I have just bought a turbo?
Yeah,
so
fair.
My opinion is I think 5 cylinders sound better than 4 cylinders. And there's a swap kit, the 07K swap kit made by Boosted Brothers Garage, I believe, and it lets you put a 07K.
And that's like the pretty popular swap for these?
No, the popular swap is the LS.
Oh no, of course. That's fair for every car though.
Yeah, I mean the LS is like, it's just easy.
Yeah,
it's the one that everybody goes for, and we're in America, so
yeah, you gotta have 8 cylinders.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about yours specifically. So the first thing that pops out a little bit is this guy right here. Can I?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
You can move it around. Yeah.
I think it's unique. It adds a little bit of a custom flair to it.
Custom is custom.
Is that just broken?
Yeah. So
okay.
it's just a 2-pin.
Yeah.
2 pins that go into the hood, and then.
But this one's a 1-pin.
Yeah. Now it has been modified to be a 1-pin. Yeah.
Okay.
But they're expensive, like $125 for a new badge.
Yeah. No. So not really worth. I mean, you can straighten it out. So is this paint OEM? It doesn't really look like OEM paint.
No, it is not OEM paint. The car has been resprayed. You can tell because this is just from it rubbing, but there's a lot of areas here, like this rubber here, the top of the door. You can tell that it's been resprayed. Eventually, I do want to get it repainted. I like this color. It's okay.
Yeah, it looks pretty decent. I noticed it has kind of a greenish pinkish pearl in it, which is definitely not very Porsche, but it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, it looks kind of like a salmon. Which is kind of funny.
It does.
But yeah, I eventually want to paint it a different color. I was thinking going with a Porsche color. I was thinking painting this car in Frozen Berry Metallic.
And that's a Porsche color?
That is a Porsche color.
Interesting. We'll put that up on screen over here so you guys can see what it looks like. But that's the vision. And then second big thing, like wheels. Are you gonna keep these? Are stock 944 wheels, right?
These are stock 944 wheels, but for a late model. So sadly, I have these thick-ass spacers here to make up the distance.
It's like a 20 mil spacer back there.
The rear is a lot worse, but basically, yeah, the later models came with wider axles, and so the wheels have a different offset, and it looks like this guy traded the stock OEM wheels for the later model wheels.
That's pretty interesting that they did that. But they do look good, and they're Porsche wheels, so they fit the car. It's just the spacers are unfortunate.
Yeah, the spacers are unfortunate. I was thinking maybe doing cookie cutter wheels as an in-between wheel before I go to BBS RSs.
Ooh,
which is the dream.
That would be nice.
That is the dream. I've seen them on a couple of cars, and they look really good.
Yeah, so paint's gonna get changed at some point, wheels are gonna be changed at some point. Yes. So what have you done to this? Like, I know you've done like quite a bit just cleaning it up. Like,
so basically just doing like the most basic stuff, just like cleaning up the car. I got a new wheel. Actually, somebody bought me a new wheel.
Okay, well, let's check out the interior.
The interior is a tad rough.
Okay, so I can see you have a brown and black interior. That's a common interior, or is that a higher trim, or what?
So, I mean, no, it's just it's a pretty plain color. It's come in a lot of these cars. I think this was re-dyed to be black. Actually.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. This isn't dirt. This is like...
This is scuffed. This is just actually paint rubbed off of the vinyl. So I could re-dye it at some point. I hope to one day to make custom panels.
Yeah, I mean, you could re-dye it in the meantime.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be too difficult.
Yeah, it wouldn't be too painful.
But the wheel, dang.
Yeah, we got a Momo Prototipo. It's a pretty common wheel for this car.
Yeah, I mean, it really fits the car with the black and the yellow matching the gauge cluster, which...
Yeah, it's very, very simple. I like that the sheet, like the brush steel kind of matches this brush steel.
Oh, yeah, it does.
I think that's a nice feature of it. And the yellow of the Momo logo matches the dials.
Yeah, those yellow gauges look really nice.
Yeah.
So, basically completely stock interior other than the wheel, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
I have
nice.
not done any modifications.
It's in, like, not the best shape, but it's all there, which is ideal.
Yeah, it's nice to have it all there. Eventually I want to get rid of that ashtray.
Yeah.
And replace it with a 3D printed cup holder, because I would like a cup holder in this car.
Cup holders are nice. I mean, if you guys saw my video with the cup holder, that's doing pretty well over there. It's still on there. I'm probably gonna leave it on.
Yeah.
And then I remember when you got this, it had like 20%, or 15% limo tint on the thing, and you peeled that all off.
Yeah, it was awful, guys. Please don't put cheap tint on your car. It looks like shit, and it's really hard to see out of the car.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't really look good on like classic Porsches. Oh, yeah, classic.
You have like a big piece of glass, and I just feel like cars where they have a big piece of glass back here should just have a big piece of glass. It shouldn't be tinted
it's a pretty unique piece of glass. It's a curved piece.
Yeah, it looks
pretty
really
interesting.
Nice.
And then, did you delete this?
No, that came deleted.
Oh.
But it is a common mod because the motors die out and they're super expensive for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, like the Porsche tax.
Yeah.
Not too surprised.
The other thing that came tinted on this car was all of the lights. Basically, when I got the car, all of these and all the side lights and just basically everything that wasn't the headlights was tinted.
Yeah.
And it was just pitch black. And
I'll put some pictures, because I remember you taking the tint off. I'll put some pictures on screen of what it looked like before. Do you want to tell them what you did to get rid of that tint?
Basically, I just sat there with acetone. I don't know if that's like safe on... I think that's not safe on most plastics.
Yeah.
It's a pretty bad idea, but on these it was actually pretty alright.
So you did acetone to take the tint off of the tail lights and all the side markers, and then how'd you get the tint off of the windows, in case anyone's wondering?
So the tint off, what I did was I just took a heat gun and I just took it all off with a heat gun, which left glue everywhere, and then I just used goof off, and it's just really careful not to get it on paint anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, did you have to be like super careful around the heater back here? Or was that not too bad? Did it just peel off of that?
It peeled off. Actually, what happened was on these lines here, it was really unfortunate. It started growing mold in between the tint and the lines, because I guess these heated up, which made space between the tint or something.
Yeah.
And just basically all along this, it was just like green moss or mold or something growing.
Well, that's good that you got that out there.
Yeah, it is nice.
I mean, you can really say how it's just a wide-bodied 924 because the actual gas door is like sunken in like you have a wide-body kit on it, which is pretty funny.
It's not by design.
Oh, it's not? Is it broken? Is it?
It's supposed to sit out a little bit more.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
It's a good gas stealing prevention dealio.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, I just stick my key in there and pop it out. It's
Perfect.
not too bad. Cool thing about this car is that it comes with pop-ups.
Yes, the best part about this car, in my opinion, pop-ups are the best. F40s, Miatas, 944s, 240s, everything good has pop-ups. So, anything unique about these pop-ups?
Okay, so
Can you make them do Miata thing where they go up and down?
you can't make them go up and down individually. The way that the pop-ups on this car work, let me just pop the hood.
Okay, yeah, pop the hood and we'll take a look at that.
So, I'm not an expert on how it is on other cars. I'm also just not an expert. Anyway, so the thing that's really cool about this car is, or not the thing that's cool about this car, but the thing that's cool about these pop-ups specifically is the fact that they're on one bar. It's just a
Interesting.
single motor.
So it's a single motor and they're attached by a bar, so you can't do alternating, sadly.
No alternating.
But can you make them go sleepy mode?
You would have to get a kit. You have to buy a kit to make them go sleepy
How much is the
mode.
kit?
Probably like $20.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's just like a thing that goes in between that stops it from going all the way down. It goes between the switch that I disconnected here so that we can have them up.
Yeah, so you can't actually turn the car off and turn all the lights off and keep the pop-ups up. So you have to disconnect the relay and then turn everything off and then turn off the car to keep these pop-ups up, which we needed for the thumbnail.
Yeah, so it's a little bit jank. I'm sure eventually I'll get the kit for funsies.
I mean, it'd be pretty easy to just wire in like a switch like this to keep them up. You just disconnect it before you actually turn the car off.
Yeah, exactly. The fun thing about pop-ups though is just like being able to wave at people. Really fun.
With Mark III Supras, I have a buddy with a Mark III Supra, and you can actually mess with the stock for the pop-ups, and then if you leave it in the middle, in between like headlights and off, you can get them to stick in the sleepy mode.
Oh.
So you don't actually need to do anything on those. And then with the Miatas, you can just like aggressively button mash the pop-up button, and then you can like get them out of sync and make them like go side to side. But
Yeah.
this requires a bit more effort. I see.
I would have to like
You can't just
I would
like
have to solve
cheat
this bar.
code the buttons.
Yeah, it would be pretty jank.
So this looks like a single cam. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Wow.
And it's an 8 valve as well.
It's an 8 valve, and what's the displacement on this?
2.5 liters.
Jeez, that's a pretty big 4-cylinder.
Yeah, it's really inefficient in making power.
Yeah. So I remember you telling me you had some electrical issues with this thing.
Yeah, so if you're gonna buy a 944 and you're gonna buy an early model, just be prepared to like chase a lot of electrical issues.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a
just
lot of
German
bugs.
things though. So.
Yeah, so when I got the car, my turn signals kind of worked, and then after it sitting for a couple of weeks, the lights just stopped working. Like my brake lights wouldn't work occasionally, and it was getting pretty. It was kind of dangerous because what the issue was there was debris in the connector, and so there was so much resistance that the wires were turning yellow. So I did put new.
Okay, so you're basically just cooking your wiring harness.
Yeah, I did that in the rear for the tail.
Okay, well
lights.
let's pop the rear and take a look at this giant piece of glass back here as well.
Careful with these. So a lot of people like to upgrade the shocks on these,
Yeah.
but then they make the mistake of having too powerful a shock, and then when it comes up, it'll just shatter the glass.
Oh,
so
jeez.
I've heard of people doing that.
Yeah, let's
So-
not do that.
Yeah, just keeping the stock ones.
This isn't your handiwork here, is it?
This is not my
Oh,
handiwork.
that's the motor delete from
That is
before.
the motor delete, and that is how the car came, and that is how I got it. But
You got a lot of space back here.
yeah.
I mean, it is a GT car, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it has 2 more seats here.
Yeah.
But they're not functional. You could not fit a human being. Maybe a child.
And so this is just a piece, like you can actually just put that over there and it gives you more trunk?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is just the seats folded.
Okay. Oh, I see.
Yeah. So,
Oh, that's pretty cool.
and then this is a trunk cover.
Oh, wow, you got everything back here.
This one's a little bit jank. Yeah, so I did do a little bit of wiring here. The only thing I really did...
Get it here at all.
Oops, that is the drain hose.
Is that a Deutsch connector down there?
That is a Deutsch
Oh,
connector.
that's the guy.
That is what I upgraded to because I had some well, like you could tell, these are like some of the stock connectors on the car.
Yeah.
And all of them have very big openings in the back, so there's always a lot of dirt getting in there.
So were you able to just de-pin those and then pin them into the Deutsch connectors, or did you actually have to cut and...
So I cut and repin them, and I put the Deutsch connectors in.
And that just solved a lot of your electrical issues back here?
Yes, that basically made everything work here.
Okay.
One other thing I did was I put a little bit of solder on the contact point. So I like sanded it and put a little bit of solder on the contact point where the light bulbs touch.
Okay, I get it.
So that just kind of like helps it not
So if you're a 944 owner or a future 944 owner, it looks like connectors corrode as well as the actual socket for the bulb. So if you're having electrical issues with your lights, that's essentially what you did?
90% of it. After I did the Deutsch connectors, never had a problem with my lights. So that's kind of nice. I would recommend joining like some forums, some groups, because I found some wiring harnesses in a book. Forgot what manual it was, but it was for an NA, my year. But the wiring harness was not correct.
Okay, so you also had not only electrical issues with the tail lights, but also with the tachometer?
Yes, I had an issue with the tachometer where it was either my oil pressure gauge worked or my tachometer worked.
Huh.
And it had something to do with there was a wire back there that wasn't grounded.
So has that been all of your electrical issues? Lights, tachometer?
Oh, cruise control. I haven't.
Ooh, cruise control.
So this thing did come with cruise control. I guess it just probably keeps it at the same RPM.
Yeah.
But it's bugged. I need to find. I just have it disconnected for the time being. But I need to find the location of the actual computer. And I'm thinking, since it's 80s electronics, I could probably figure it out. Reflow some solder.
Could be, yeah.
We did that for your for your lights.
So on older cars, sometimes if you have circuit boards, they'll have just a huge line of solder for the traces, and that stuff will actually crack and get brittle, and leaded solder is also known for that. So sometimes just flowing some more solder or heating it up and letting it cool down again will actually fix some of your circuit problems if it's on like a circuit board. So that's the idea for this, is to hopefully find the ECU, just lay a little of a bead on there and call it a day.
Okay, so I've had a couple of mechanical issues with this. The two ones that I ran into, so the first issue that I ran into right away was my master cylinder was leaking, my clutch master cylinder.
Yeah.
And on this car, on a lot of newer cars, they have it separated, they have a separate reservoir. On this car, it's all in one reservoir.
Is it a split reservoir in the middle though? Where...
yeah, it is split in the middle. I had to replace the master cylinder, which is right over there.
Yeah, so the master cylinder is like tucked away right in there. You just follow this blue line, I assume, right?
Yeah, that blue line's connected to the master cylinder. The master cylinder, on the clutch, there's also another thing that's really annoying, and there's this one spring at the very top, and it was just absolute hell to put in.
I was there for the install. It's like essentially a clutch return spring almost. Yeah. Which is weird because you don't think you would need that, but it's like a secondary clutch return spring.
It's like a secondary spring.
There's a spring right behind the pedal, and then there's a second spring that hooks it back up to like some part of the dash almost, right?
I think it's like between the pedal and the firewall.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, it was just disconnected, and I was like, oh, how bad could it be?
Yeah.
And it was pretty terrible.
Yeah, it gave a weird feel to the pedal, but it's a second spring. So there's the spring right behind the pedal, and then there's a second spring that attaches to return the pedal.
Yeah, so when the pedal travel, there's like a point. So like the first travel's smooth, and then there's like a hump that you kind of hit.
Yeah. And
then it continues.
And it's not like the clutch point. There's like, you bring the pedal off the ground, then there was a clutch point, and then there would be like a second like bump, and that little bump was the not having the spring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the second mechanical thing that I had run into was the power steering pump.
Okay.
And so one day, it was leaking a little bit, and then one day I was like, oh, I'm gonna go hang out with my friends. And as I pulled out of the driveway, I looked at the driveway and noticed a big red puddle.
Red puddle.
And then I knew that I had to just pull back into the driveway and go inside, and I was just done for the day. I was pretty upset. Then I ordered the seal kit. Actually, it wasn't too bad to rebuild.
So the power steering pump has an actual, is it an OEM seal kit or is it aftermarket? I assume aftermarket?
It's an aftermarket seal kit. It's actually, the seal kit seems to cover quite a few cars. I'm assuming that it's probably used on a couple of German cars. It said like Audis and some other things. Yes. So it's just like take
So
out.
where's the pump at on this thing?
The pump is right. It's at the very bottom left over
Okay,
here.
bottom left of the engine, and you just pulled the belt off, pulled that bad boy out, and then you can basically tear that down and
Yeah.
change all the seals in it.
Yeah, it's not very difficult. You just take them out, pull out all the seals, put new seals in, make sure you don't like scratch anything, like
Yeah.
don't dig at it. But most of the stuff is lubricated, so it comes out pretty easily.
Is that a pretty common failure for all those seals to go?
It's an old car, so
Yeah.
basically any rubbers
Fair enough.
to go. One common mod is just getting rid of this cam here, and they sell just basically just a round cam, and so instead of having this like loop, you just get like a more consistent throttle response.
Yeah, so this basically like comes off this way and gives you a better throttle response.
Yeah, it's just a big round cam instead of the teardrop shape.
That's a pretty simple mod.
Yeah, it's a very simple mod. There's a bunch of like really basic things. The suspension on this though, if you want to upgrade suspension on this, it's kind of difficult.
Okay, so the rear suspension, what do we have down here?
There's a torque tube.
Ooh, nice.
So you basically have your control arms come out like this,
Yeah.
and you have a torque tube, which is just like a piece of metal in there that just kind of like this bar that twists.
Yeah.
And that acts as your springs.
I've seen on some cars you can actually adjust ride height with that, and you can basically like crank it and dump the rear. Do you have adjustment in that?
Yeah, I do have adjustment in that, but I don't really feel like slamming this car.
Yeah, I mean, because you wouldn't be able to do it in the front, right? What's in the front?
I mean, you could get coilovers for the front, and just lower the front, and then
Yeah.
do that in the rear. But I already have issues with like hitting potholes and just not feeling great about it.
Okay, well, I think now we'll go for a little spin up and down, and then probably get some rollers, and that should be about it for this. If you guys enjoyed this 944 review, Danny's Instagram will be linked in the bio. I'll probably do a few more of these with some other buddies.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's just a fun car. Get one.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Peace.